Hi Irma. Okay, so here's your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did for the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and the feelings involved, another important day, your death, and the lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can from this life to your current life, and I'll try to help. So let's start up here. And the where card is the nomad card, which is really interesting because this can mean a few things. It can mean that you don't have a home, that the place no longer exists or doesn't have a name. It can mean that you are a wanderer. So for example, like one of my last readings, it gave me a specific place actually. It's just that they didn't have a home because they were orphaned. But in this case, what it feels like is it feels very much like mobility and like we're moving around, and it feels like we're going from place to place. So it is a case of not really having a home base, but it's also a case of not having even like a settled place to give you ever, because I'm saying these people are on the move because it feels very much like you're part of a band of people. It feels like a traveling group. What comes to mind is like another reading I had was this woman was part of a troupe of like performers because she ran away from home, so she was with this traveling group and they took care of each other. And that's what it feels like here, but it's not performance. It feels more like these group of people, there's going to be something where they're very strategic and they're like almost like con artists, but only for survival's sake. It's not like they hurt anybody. So we're looking at this traveling group, and it feels like a Western European kind of thing, like they go throughout Europe is what it feels like. So let's go to what you do with the majority of your time. And so this card here is the teacher card, and it's interesting because it kind of is like a dual card, because it feels very much like of the group you're the person that kind of keeps everyone in line, like kind of keeps everyone kind of like ethical, moral, that kind of thing. Like you just kind of are a gentle reminder to everyone that even though we're not staying here for very long, you can still be good to these people. You don't have to just, shit all over them, if that makes sense. So already how we can be making connections is one, this might sound like odd, but have you ever felt a desire to backpack through Europe? Have you ever wanted to do the travel here, there, just maybe not even Europe, but like just traveling for a little bit here, a little bit here, like as though backpacking? If you've ever had that kind of like urge ever, it could stem from here, being constantly on the move. This can also mean that you're someone that has come back into this life to want to settle down and find roots. So you may have chosen a family that's very traditional or a family that's very rooted somewhere. That's how it can happen. On the other hand, because you may have come back, opposite this, wanting to settle down and find roots, there's another way you could have wanted to come back, is to kind of continue this feeling of moving around. So you might have chosen the kind of life where you do move here and there, like if your parents were in the army, like that kind of thing, how people move around a lot, or you just moved around a lot. So you see how you can be connecting kind of like in complete opposites. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so the teacher card is dual though. So it was about teaching keeping tabs on people, kind of like, hey, like, I guess almost like if somebody was confused about a situation, they would come to you, or you would oversee the situation because there was such clarity. So there's this feeling of this person having a very clear mind. And we're looking at the life of a female. So this is a female person who's traveling around. Also, what came to mind was almost like the sense of gypsies, those people who are just constantly moving around don't really have a settled home. So you might also, if you read about gypsies or that lifestyle, or I mean, even like your favorite Disney movie could be The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I know that's kind of weird, but those are just little connections that you could be making too. Except with these, they're not outright gypsies. These people put on, I mean, they might be, but they put on personas of being like good citizens of the town. Like, we came here to be a part of this town. And it feels very much like the time period we're looking at is what we would equate with old Western times, like where there were saloons out west, like that kind of thing. So I don't know exactly what time period that is, but if you look it up, whenever that was going on, I feel like that's when this was going on. But it feels very much like Europe. So again, if you've been pulled towards actually Europe in general, like Western Europe, keep that in mind as well. So the teacher card is also dual because when you went to these towns, what it feels like is that you actually got a job as a teacher for children. So it feels very much like you were able to teach children whatever it was they were learning at the time, whether it's reading or, you know, very basic educational skills. But I also feel like you were actually teaching them skills, like life skills, like reading people. It's almost like you have this really great ability not only to read people, but to teach others on how to read people, almost like body language. So in your current life, you can find that you are someone that's like either empathic or very intuitive or very like able to read people's body language, or you just kind of get a sense of how they are feeling in the moment, which is very helpful for you. And that's how it could be coming back, or how it could stem over into your current life. Also, it could simply be you may be drawn to teaching in whatever capacity, and this could be your own children as well if you have them. So you may be drawn to the youth, to teaching, to also something about ethics and morals and keeping people in a row. So you might be like, if you are a mother, you would be a very good mother because you'd be able to keep everybody like kind of like on task, but in life, not like do the dishes, but more like be a good person, treat your neighbors well, you know, have high integrity. So that might be something that's important to you, is surrounding yourself with people of high integrity, or you might find yourself surrounded by people to whom you feel necessary to teach integrity to, or teach ethics, or why it's good to be a moral person. It doesn't mean religious. It could just mean like, you know, moral integrity, like your inner being, who you are, why it's good to be good, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's go to the first important day. Here we have the Wowzer card, which is, I love this card because it's usually like something shocking or something big that just kind of is like, you know, like, wow, something happens where it's like it's never happened before and it moves you in a big way. And the feeling involved here is the child card. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. The child card. So there's a child involved, and the feelings, this is kind of like lonely, sad, melancholy kind of thing. There's the sorrow involved in this. So what we're looking at here, what it feels like, is something very new happens because it's a test to your own like integrity and what you feel is right and wrong. And what's happening is, in one of these towns that you're teaching in, there is a child that you're teaching, and this child is very mistreated. Almost like you can see physical abuse marks when this child comes into the classroom. And this is a very young child, but not super, like, I want to say, it's interesting because like we would consider this child young, but this child helps his family work. So we're actually looking at someone that looks like to be about 8 years old, and it looks 8, 9. And it feels like a little boy, and he's completely, it's shocking to you because you can tell that this child is very gifted in art, and there's an emotional sensitivity and something about just like this kid is very special. in his heart, and he's very like sweet, and yet he's living this life with people who completely disregard that and kind of want to beat it out of him, is what it feels like. And so you have to see this child now in this new place that you guys have settled down for the time being. You see this child every day now, and you guys bond. And there does come a day when so the test for you, what's happening, is you're realizing that you love this child and you want to bring him with you when it's time to go, because it's getting time to like wrap up. It's almost like you guys stay somewhere for a season, is what it feels like. Like just enough to like meet some people, make some money, kind of integrate for a season. You're even your people, this group is actually useful to the town. It's like, it's not like they're bad people. It's just that they do want to get as much as they can in order to hold them over until the next place. So, and it does feel like you do travel with people who have been on the wrong side of the law, but not necessarily bad people, but just that they're kind of outcasts. So just keep that in mind, because that means that you could have a thing for the underdog in this life. So if you have a thing for the underdog, it would make a lot of sense, not just with the people you traveled with, but also with what's happening here with this kid. And so what's happening is you're finding that you're already planning on taking this kid with you. You're going to basically kidnap the kid, but the kid wants to go with you. It's a very odd scenario. So this again, and the sorrow comes in because there's a couple of things about sorrow. It's one, seeing this child suffer while you can't really do anything for the time being. And also, the sorrow of realizing that you're going to be going against your own kind of what you consider to be right. Because this is not your child and you're about to do something very, very illegal. But it's for the betterment of the child. So that's where the ethical dilemma comes in. So you might find in your current life that you're someone that does struggle with ethical dilemmas, because it could be that you have had maybe a very like traditional or religious upbringing, and you might be finding as you grow up that you don't agree with what you've been taught by people that you love and respect and admire. And it's that kind of ethical dilemma where you're like, wait a second, I've grown up on these principles, and yet living my life, I'm realizing that they're not right for me, and there might be a lot of guilt associated. So if you're someone that harbors a lot of guilt, this would be coming up to tell you to release it and let it go, because it's time. We're at a time where it's really important that you follow your inner guidance and not the guidance of the external or others outside of yourself. It's very important. So guilt hinders us. It hinders our development and our growth. And especially as women, we tend to hold a lot of guilt, especially guilt just for simply thinking independently. So if that's the case with you, if you do have any guilt that you're harboring for any ethical dilemma that you feel is in your life, or maybe coming in your life, or has been, just let it go. Try to find the switch and switch it off, because it's not necessary and it's holding you back. So please keep that in mind if it speaks to you. Also, what else might connect is you might feel very triggered or connected with the activism of the youth that's going on today, which is normal. Everyone obviously is watching these children, this new generation change the world, and it's amazing. But it's not just right now. It could have always been where you're very intrigued or kind of triggered or emotionally moved by the youth, the next generation, almost like hopeful, like you might feel very strongly about young people and kind of like teaching them to do what's like right, so that what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say something about like how just the youth is the future. Like that just might be something you care about, is the youth is our future. So if you feel strongly about that, it would come from here. And if not, that's fine, but that's just what is coming up. So keep that in mind. But mostly I feel like we're dealing with like more about ethical dilemmas, letting go of the past, letting go of past perceptions, and past what you might have felt was past like rightness, like what you felt was once right, or what you were taught was right, and what you're finding now works for you might be different. Letting go of that past, very important. So keep that in mind. The next important day here, this is the so long, farewell until we meet again card. And that's usually meaning that somebody's leaving. You might be leaving, so other people might be leaving. This is the soulmate card. And the feelings involved is happy, happy, happy. So what's happening is this child doesn't really know what you're planning. All that's happening is that there's a deep bond. It's almost like you feel very maternal and very much like a soul mother to this child. And that's true, because this child and you are soulmates. It's not romantic. Soulmates can be romantic, but it doesn't have to be romantic. It just means these are people that are on a soul level, are connected and meant to be a part of each other's life in a big way. And that's what we see is happening here. So it's almost like the season's done. We're coming to the end and it's time to go. And you have overcome this ethical dilemma. You've moved through it. You've released guilt because you see that without the action of you taking the child, without that action, not only will you feel guilty or resentful or wishing you had done something else in the long run, but also this child would have lived a miserable life. He would have had roots, he would have had a home, he would have had, like he would have been like, what's the word, like provided for, as a child, and then you lived in that town or whatever. But that doesn't mean happiness, okay? So this also speaks out to family, and how family is not always, like, blood isn't always thicker than water kind of thing. Like, people make choices like, oh, I'd rather, have a roof over my head and my family with me and this and that, even though it's toxic. People would choose that because it's been tradition. It's been tradition to choose your family over your own, your own, like, enlightenment, I guess, or your own independence, happiness, joy, whatever it is. And it's like, we're not in that time anymore. And this is out of this time context. You don't see this happen where the child chose you too. It's not just you grabbing him at night and running away. He chose to leave his family, and that's ahead of his time. And that's another thing, is these children, another reason why you might be interested in this youth movement happening is because you love to see people who are ahead of their time, and you yourself might think in a way that you feel is ahead of your time. And so we're looking at this happening where the choice is being made to let go of roots, tradition, lineage, family, consistency, like that kind of thing, to embark on this new journey where there are no roots. You're mobile, you're moving around, there's not a lot of stability, but there's love. There's love. So it's choosing love over what's it called, like tradition, I guess. It's not tradition. I don't want to say tradition. It's over, what's it called? I'm trying, like what is expected of you. So what's expected of you. So choosing love over what is expected of you, so to speak. So almost like what people would consider logic. Love over logic, except we're finding that love is logic. So I feel like almost that's the big message in this day that we're looking at to you, is to understand that love is logic rather than tradition and family first and putting others first and this. No, like that's not love. It's more like self-love, which is not selfish. It's just loving yourself and loving your ideas and loving what you consider to be good for you, like just really kind of accepting everything about yourself. That's really love. And this child, in coming with you, is accepting in himself at this young age that he's different, that he doesn't belong where he has been born. Like, he doesn't belong there. So he's choosing love over logic. He's choosing you and this lifestyle over what is proper and right. You know what I mean? So that's what we're seeing here, is love over logic. And we are seeing a soulmate in each other. So when this child comes with you, we see him staying with you and joining your group and bonding with everyone. And this group is family, and this group is more family than his family ever was, or than that your family ever was. Again, showing that blood is not thicker than water. And that speaks to if you are finding that you have people close to you, like family or longtime friends, that are toxic and that bring you down, or that judge you, make you feel heavy, where you don't want to, it's hard to spend time with them now. And you don't have to have those relationships in your life. You don't have to, completely abandon them, but you can if you want to. Again, releasing the guilt, because this is a time where it's very important that you don't surround yourself with toxic energy and toxic people. It's time to surround yourself with people you feel comfortable around, you can express yourself with, that you love, really dearly love. And again, it doesn't mean you have to completely, never speak to family again, but you can. If you don't want to speak with family, you don't have to, despite how traditional your family may be, or despite how it may look to others. That is really a true release when you stop caring about how your actions will look to other people when it comes to serving your inner self and listening to that inner guidance of what's good for you and who is good to surround yourself with, the kind of people, the environment, that kind of thing. Not being forced to do things you don't want to do, or spend time with people you don't want to spend time with. That's what I feel like we're looking at here in a big way. And this happiness card comes through because following your happiness, I'm sure you've heard about following your joy, following your excitement, but truly doing that will put you exactly on the right path. That's exactly how you get on your path and get into the flow of things, is by following what brings you true inner joy. And that starts with where you are and who you surround yourself with. So keep that in mind if that speaks to you. And if not, that's okay. So the death card here, this is the water card, death by water. And I'm trying to see what this is here, because it feels very much like we're looking at almost like so the water card, it can mean drowning, this and that, but it actually feels like we're looking at like a storm. It feels like cold winter wetness bringing on almost like a sickness, and it feels like something affects your lungs in a way where you never regain your strength, and it feels just like a diminishment of your strength over the years. So it's not like a full-on boom death, like you were swept away in a flood and you died. It's not like that. It feels very much like almost like you developed like pneumonia or bronchitis because of a very wet season one year. And what happens is it almost gives you like an infection in your lungs or chest, and the infection alters your whole body, and it just seems like just over the next few years you kind of slowly peter out. So how this can stem into your current life in any way is, one, if you find that you get colds or flus or bronchitis, whatever, very easily, it could stem from here. As well, if you have breathing problems or lung issues, very mucousy in the lung, like just trouble breathing issues, anything in the chest area. If you find you have chest congestion or that kind of thing, it would possibly be stemming from here. As well, if you experience chronic fatigue, kind of like just fatigueness, like just tired, if you're tired you don't know why, that kind of thing, all that kind of thing, stuff could stem from this. So keep that in mind. Chest, breathing, lungs, cold, flu kind of thing, and fatigue. And this also may translate into dehydration. If you find that you're dehydrated a lot, it could stem from this kind of thing. So keep that in mind. And it's something that you could move past and get over by recognizing that it doesn't serve you in the current life. And that's why I do these. That's why I love these past lives, is because once you recognize on a soul level that certain traits or characteristics or even physical things come not from this life but from a completely different time, and it doesn't even serve you, you're able to move past that. there are methods you can use to move past that, whether it's hypnosis or meditation or whatever it is. So keep that in mind. And the lesson here is the working hard card. This is really interesting because you did nothing but work, period. Like, even though there was family involved, like these people you loved and you enjoyed teaching and you were able to enjoy yourself, but you didn't stop working at all. So that can come through a few different ways. It could mean that, one, it can explain if you are someone who considers yourself a workaholic, and that includes being a mother. If you are a full-time mother, that's constant work. That's 24-hour work. And if you've chosen to be a mother, it could be because you have such capabilities of working for like your life, like a lifelong job, but it doesn't necessarily translate into like work as in like, ugh, I have to go to work every day, that kind of thing. If you love what you're doing, it's not work. So either one, this can be coming up to show you that if you are really unhappy with what you are doing for your life, whether it's a career or whatever you're spending your time doing, if you're unhappy, this is coming up to show you that you don't have to be unhappy. You can choose to work, except it won't feel like work. You can choose to find something in your life that makes it feel like you're not working, that it's just your life because you love it so much and it's who you are. On the other hand, this can also be coming up to tell you to stop working so hard because this is a life where you're constantly on, because not only are you working, but you're also having a persona to put on, like you're also lying in a way to these places you go to. They think you're going to be there forever, but really you're just there for the season and you're going to pick up and go. So there was a lot of being on. So it could be that if you feel in your current life like you're tired, like you're tired and you're working a lot, it could be coming up to tell you to stop. And you don't have to be on all the time. You can take a breather, you can get away, go relax. You can change anything in your life that you want to, because again, this whole inner guidance, this compass of following your joy, that's actually going to lead you to doing what you love to do in your life if you're not already doing it. Okay? So I feel like that there's a few messages in that coming through. But other than that, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make various connections, at least a few. And thanks for letting me read you.